For every pair of Jordans that is adored and loved, there's a pair of J's lurking in the shadows that everyone hates on. It's long been known throughout the sneakerhead community that you never want to be caught rocking a pair of 6 rings, but why is that? Sneaker features a Jumpman on the logo. They're a legit offering from Jordan Brand. What's the big deal? Okay, so look, back in 2008 when the 6 rings first hit shelves, they released around the same time as a product line Jordan put out called Fusion. The Air Jordan Fusion line was a collection of sneakers that fused elements of iconic Air Jordans with the classic Nike Air Force 1, hence the name Air Jordan Fusion. Look at this. These are Air Jordan 5s and these are Air Force 1s, but put those in a pot and mix together and poof, this is what you get, a bootleg looking ass pair of Air Jordans. Notice the outsole is from the Air Force 1 and the corny strap on the top is also from the Air Force 1. They disgrace tons of J's with this horrendous design direction. The 4s got, the 12s, the 13s, and hell, even the Jordan 9s were vandalized with Air Force 1 design elements. Okay, don't look at me, I'm not the only one who clowns Jordan Fusions. They were received with mixed criticism back in 2008. Back to the 6 rings though. This shoe is also a mashup. More specifically, all the models Michael Jordan had on feet when he won his 6 championship rings. Despite the 6 in its name, the shoe is a hybrid of 7 models. The Air Jordan 6, the Air Jordan 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, and 14. People love to hate on the Jordan 6 rings to this day. Maybe it's the fact that the Jordan Fusion line left a bad taste in their mouth, or maybe it's the fact that they straight up look like bootlegs. These are definitely one of the most hated Jordans of all time. Meet the Air Jordan 3, the mid-cut masterpiece that marked the start of a new era for Air Jordan. Designed by the legendary Tinker Hatfield, this sneaker has earned its spot as one of the most important shoes in Nike's history. Easily one of the most loved Jordans thanks to its quality tumbled leather and versatility when it comes to piecing together an outfit. Who doesn't love a pair of black cement 3s? Let's flash back to 1987 though, when things were heating up for Jordan Brand. The first 2 Jordan models were in the bag, but the departure of designer Peter Moore and Nike's VP of Marketing Rob Strasser led to a game-changing twist. Michael Jordan's contract with Nike was up for renewal, and the rumor was MJ, Nike's cash cow, was considering signing somewhere else. You see, at the time, Nike was still a new company, and Michael Jordan wasn't too happy with the design direction of his last 2 signature models. To top it off, MJ also injured himself early on in his sophomore season while wearing the Jordan 2. The relationship was sour at this point. Phil Knight was pretty well convinced that Michael was going to leave Nike. Phil was very concerned. I think he thought for sure we had lost him. Tinker Hatfield. That's when Tinker Hatfield, the young designer, found himself tasked with literally saving Nike. The Air Jordan 3 brought some groundbreaking features to the table, like that iconic exposed air bubble that gave us a window into the air unit, a first for Jordan Brand, a design feature that Tinker Hatfield successfully brought to market with the Air Max 1 the year prior. Perhaps the most defining feature of that shoe, and I'm sure it was the reason MJ decided to stay, was the reveal of the now legendary Jumpman logo. I mean, aside from the iconic Nike swoosh, I'd argue that the Jumpman logo is the greatest logo of all time. It symbolizes Michael Jordan as a player and his brand so well. Fast forward to today, and the Air Jordan 3 is a timeless classic that has left an everlasting mark on sneaker culture. Collectors and enthusiasts alike can't get enough of it. It's no wonder it made our most loved list. Ah yes, the Air Jordan 1 Mid. For reasons unknown, mids have divided the sneakerhead community worse than American politics have the American people. Look at this Jordan 1 High and this Jordan 1 Mid side by side. To the untrained eye, it's really hard to tell the difference. Hell, unless someone told you there was a difference, at first glance, you would think that they're essentially the same shoe. So what's all the fuss about? The OG Air Jordan 1 High, released back in '85, is like the holy grail of sneakers for a lot of collectors. It's the very first Air Jordan shoe. It's got history, it's got style, and it's got cultural significance for days. Now, here comes the Mid in 2001, a solid 15 years after the High dropped. And you know what they say about timing. It matters. The Mid just didn't get the same love. Why? Well, it's got a bit of an identity crisis. It's not a low, it's not a high, it's somewhere in the middle. Some folks say it's an imitation. Others say it's got its own unique charm. It's also a product line that is, for the most part, mass-produced and readily available, which in today's FOMO climate of sneaker culture is not desirable. Jordan Brand knows this, and the internet agrees that the materials used for mass-produced mids are, well, mid! But hold up for a sec. Before you write off mids entirely, let's give them a chance, yeah? They might not be as flashy, but they're definitely budget friendly and durable. Plus, some of those colorways, they're straight up borrowed from the retro highs. And let's not forget, the mids are easier to find and won't break the bank. Here's the thing, The Air Jordan 1 mid is not the Air Jordan 1 high. Unfortunately, a big percentage of sneakerheads are all about value, and these two are in different leagues when it comes to value. Mids don't have that OG cut, the Nike Air branding, or the limited edition appeal, and that's where the hate stems from. Collectors usually don't chase after the mids because they lack hype. In the sneaker world, history and rarity drive up the value, and the mids just don't have that same story. And speaking of differences, check this out. The mids have fewer lace holes, which gives them a bulkier look compared to the sleek highs. Oh, and the Nike Air branding on the tongue? Yeah, it's a deal breaker for some who want the OG experience. So now you know why the internet decided mids are trash and why they will most likely remain on our most hated Jordans list. Another Jordan people love to hate on is the bulky and unmistakable Air Jordan 2. For many years considered to be the black sheep of the family. If you look at the entire line of Jordans, the Air Jordan 2 stands out like a sore thumb. Nike's whole idea for the Air Jordan 2 was to make a luxury basketball shoe. A sneaker that could perform on the court and could also be worn with a tuxedo off it, something fashionable but still performance-based. One thing to note is that at the time, Michael Jordan was rocking gold chains and into dressing flashy. Maybe they took that into consideration when designing this shoe. Who knows, but designers Peter Moore and Bruce Kilgore hoped for big things with the Air Jordan 2. Prototypes for the Air Jordan 2 included a hybrid version that has the Air Jordan 1 upper but the Air Jordan 2 sole. It's very strange to look at, right? It almost gives me anxiety. They also experimented with a prototype that looked nothing like the final product. There was also a low-cut version of this specific prototype that was used for the Chicago Bulls cheerleaders to wear. Sticking to their upscale luxury vision for the shoe, the Air Jordan 2 featured genuine Italian leather and a layer of fake iguana skin on the upper. Oddly enough, the shoe didn't feature any kind of swoosh branding. They went with the Air Jordan Wings logo on the tongue and the Nike Text logo on the heel and outsole. At first glance, the sneaker looks like a big yacht from the 1980s. Debuting the Air Jordan 2 at Madison Square Garden, Michael Jordan scored 50 points in a win over the New York Knicks. He eventually snagged himself the first career scoring title while rocking the Air Jordan 2. It has its place in history for sure, but what's the big deal? Why is the Air Jordan 2 so hated on? Here's a little backstory. Both Bruce Kilgore and Peter Moore were dismissed from designing the Air Jordan line, and it makes you wonder why. In fact, Peter Moore left the company shortly after because he was growing frustrated with designing the Air Jordan 3, and that's where Tinker Hatfield came in. The Jordan 2 put Nike in a rut. Everyone knows that Michael Jordan signed with Nike as a last resort and just wasn't a fan of the shoes. He hated the Air Jordan 2. Despite putting up some amazing stats in them, he thought the shoe was too heavy. And up until only a few years ago, the Air Jordan 2 has kind of lived in the shadows of the iconic 1 through 14 Jordan's catalog. It got little to no love from sneaker enthusiasts. That was until Virgil Abloh, the founder of Off-White, stepped in. With his collab, Virgil significantly changed the narrative surrounding the Air Jordan 2 through his collab on the silhouette. Virgil and his team at Off-White pulled an original Air Jordan 2 low from Nike's DNA archives and reverse engineered an original pair using three-dimensional scans of an exact pair MJ laced up. The results were stunning. This collab gave new life to the Jordan 2, with Jordan Brand releasing more collabs on the silhouette shortly after. I'll admit it, I never liked the Jordan 2, but over the years, I've come to appreciate the sneaker more. It was definitely one of the most hated on Jordans for years though. We all love the Air Jordan 11 around here, right? I mean, MJ said it himself. The Air Jordan 11 is his favorite sneaker next to the Air Jordan 3. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, was back after his sudden retirement and basketball stint. He was ready to conquer the NBA once again. And while he re-entered the league rocking the Jordan 10s, he would put the finishing touches on his comeback the following season in the gorgeous Air Jordan 11. 2 years and 8 months after Jordan's first retirement from the league, Michael Jordan and the Bulls were once again playing in the NBA Finals. Nike had yet to give him the okay to wear the sneakers, but Michael Jordan loved them so much that he couldn't resist wearing them early. Led by Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, the Seattle Supersonics faced off against the Chicago Bulls, and we all know what happened. On the day before Father's Day, MJ rallied the Bulls and beat the Seattle Supersonics in 6, weeping on the floor with a fresh pair of Bred 11s on. The Air Jordan 11 would forever be embedded in the minds of lovers of the sport. Fun fact, MJ wore Concords exclusively for the regular season and then wore Breds for the finals. If that doesn't make you want a pair of Jordan 11s in your collection, then the technological features will. The most notable and to be the most classy detail of the sneaker is the patent leather. While studying Michael Jordan's playing, Tinker Hatfield noticed that when Michael would change directions during an intense moment in the game, his foot would roll over the soles of his shoes. To counter that, Tinker used patent leather, which helped prevent this from happening. You can also thank the patent leather for the cheesy trend of pimping out your groomsmen and Jordan 11s for your wedding. Seriously though, it does go good with the suit. Jordan Brand even released a new colorway called the Cap and Gown, which recognizes the Air Jordan 11's unique place at graduation ceremonies. The Air Jordan 11 also came equipped with a carbon fiber shank that dramatically made the shoe lighter than the previous Air Jordan models. There's a lot to like about the Jordan 11, and these days, Jordan Brand has been showing the sneaker a lot of love. Like generously restocking classics like the Coolberry 11s and the Cherry 11 to dropping the beautifully redone DMP 11s. They look amazing in my opinion. Who doesn't love the Air Jordan 11? Designed by Tinker Hatfield, the Air Jordan 15 was first introduced in 1999 in a black and red colorway, followed by its re-release a year later in an additional 5 variations. It's definitely both loved and hated, but mostly notable for its distinctive oversized tongue. It's sort of been pointed out as a weird sneaker that I feel like gets a lot of hate. This was also the first mainline Jordan release that Michael Jordan himself did not wear during a professional basketball game. Aside from the Jordan 9, of course, which he didn't wear because he was off playing baseball. Because of this, it was endorsed and worn by less popular NBA guards at the time, like Reggie Miller and Ray Allen. The sneaker was inspired by the X-15 hypersonic jet plane, which apparently could break speed records by going as fast as 4,000 miles per hour. They decked out the Air Jordan 15 in Kevlar aramid fiber. Hope I'm saying that right, which paid tribute to Michael Jordan's stealth-like approach on the court. At the time, the plane was the fastest manned aircraft in the world and served as, it was an ideal inspiration for advancing Michael Jordan's legacy, who was at the time already the greatest of all time. Unfortunately, the Air Jordan 15 fell short of sales, significantly missing the mark. People pointed out that there was issues with the material, the inner sleeves were poor fitting and uncomfortable, and mostly everybody just found the design just strange. Personally, when I look at these, I can't help but to think of like a genie or the movie Aladdin. That protruded tongue is rumored to be a nod to Michael Jordan's own habit of sticking out his tongue during intense moments on the court, which is dope, but I feel like looks strange on a shoe. Regardless of its standing within the sneakerhead community, Jordan Brand used the 15 as a canvas for a collab with musician Billie Eilish. For me, I feel like she was at the height of her popularity at the time, and the brand could have gone with a different Jordan model and the shoe may have had a bigger impact than it did. Was it a flop? I'm not sure, but I will say that to this day, the Air Jordan 15 remains one of the most disliked Jordan silhouettes in the brand's history. The Ross Dress for Less specials. Team Jordans. Look, a pair of Team Jordans is akin to a pair of bootleg Jordans. I don't care what you say, if you're rocking Team Jordans, you got the wrong Jordans on. That being said, it's not like Jordan Brand had bad intentions when they launched Team Jordans back in the 90s. Like any business trying to expand its profits, Jordan thought it would be a fine idea to expand its offerings by creating more accessible, high-performance footwear inspired by the highly successful main Air Jordan line. The idea caused division among sneakerheads. Although some were happy to own a Jordan shoe at a fair price, others said that these sneakers were just knockoff Jordans. And I think they were right. The Jumpman Pro was the first sneaker from Team Jordan to be released in 1997, with the big ticket Kevin Garnett as its initial endorser. Jordan Brand would later assemble a lineup of promising young athletes to carry the Jumpman into the future. These promising young athletes included Ray Allen, Vin Baker of the Bucks, Eddie Jones, who was with the Lakers at the time, Derek Anderson of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Michael Finley of the Dallas Mavs. They were the original 5 endorsers, collectively known as Team Jordan. Get it? Team Jordans? The original Jordan line has a hefty price tag tied to it, and many people were opting for the less expensive, less cool Team Jordans, which made it a common sighting on and off the court, and of course, less coveted and beloved by sneakerheads. Let's think about how people perceive Lexus and Toyota, made by the same company but less luxurious, less desirable. I'm telling you right now, if you're rocking some Team Jordans in public, you'll probably get a couple of shouts saying, "What are those?" And you might end up on a TikTok page, getting clowned on for wearing Walmart Jordans. Unfortunately, Team Jordan could never capture or recreate that status symbol that came with the original Air Jordans. And sneakerheads are only into the original stuff, the OG stuff. It also doesn't help that the man himself, Michael Jordan, does not wear these silhouettes. And for good reason. Team Jordans are trash. The Air Jordan 1. People love the Air Jordan 1 so much that it's played out for me. I have Air Jordan 1 fatigue, but hey, that doesn't stop it from being one of the most loved J's in history. The Air Jordan 1's history runs deep. Back in the 1980s, Nike really wanted to find a famous athlete to represent their brand. They needed an athlete that would match their vision of being the top sportswear brand in the world. So they decided to infiltrate the NBA. But they had a bit of a problem. Other brands like Converse, Adidas, and Puma were already dominating the court. And even though they had some releases for basketball, such as the Nike Blazer and the original Air Force Ones, they simply lacked the star power. No disrespect to Moses Malone and Michael Cooper, but they needed someone to get them over the hump. They were in search of their Magic Johnson and Larry Bird for the brand. Enter another Michael Jordan. Not superstar GOAT level Michael Jordan, at least at the moment, but UNC guard, national title, game-winning shot taker Michael Jordan. In a historic agreement that would forever change the landscape of sports marketing, Sonny Vaccaro would sign Michael Jordan to his first contract with Nike. At the time of the deal, neither Michael Jordan nor Nike were the household names that they are today, specifically in the world of basketball shoes. Nike was an underdog, better known for its running sneakers than its basketball footwear. As for MJ, he was ranked to go third in the NBA. Not bad, but he had a lot to prove. The partnership had a kind of a complicated beginning, with Michael Jordan's mom playing a big role in helping them figure things out. And as you can imagine, Nike rushed to create the perfect shoe for the newly signed rookie. Nike's creative director at the time was Peter Moore, the same guy who designed the Nike Dunk. Moore was assigned with the task of designing Michael's very first Air Jordan model. No easy feat, because Michael Jordan didn't like Nike shoes to begin with. He told Peter Moore that he didn't like how Nike soles were always so high, and that he needed to be able to feel closer to the floor when he played in them. MJ wasn't exactly a fan of Air technology. After several meetings, Peter Moore figured out a way to lower the Air unit, and used a black and red colorway to match Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls jersey. The shoe was similar in design to older Nike classics like the Air Force One and the Nike Dunk, and the iconic name Air Jordan was thought up in a mere minutes by David Falk and Rob Strasser. The original black and red colorway was groundbreaking. Before the first Air Jordan, basketball shoes were white silhouettes with minimal color. If there was any color at all, it was used in subtle ways to represent a player's team. The majority of basketball shoes had a white base, so when the Air Jordan 1 came out, it was bold and loud and probably pissed a lot of people off. The shoe was so different that you had to love it. Fans of the sport finally had a basketball player they loved and could actually dress like off the court. Because back in those days, basketball players like Dr. J dressed in suits and high-end designer clothes, but here's MJ rocking Air Jordan 1s and jeans off the court. It was fresh and it was new, something that no one had ever seen before. Not only that, but Michael Jordan became the first athlete to be marketed in such a way that made him seem like one entire team. He was bigger than basketball. Everything was going according to plan, until the unthinkable happened. The NBA sent a letter to Nike stating that the shoe's colorway did not comply with the National Basketball Association's uniform rules and procedures. This brought huge attention to Michael Jordan and Nike, but more importantly, it brought lots of attention to the shoe. What happened next was one of the most brilliant marketing moves in history. After a couple meetings, Nike decided that they would ignore the letter from the NBA and Michael Jordan would still play in the shoe, but it would come at the cost of a $5,000 fine per game. Nike was not only willing to pay the fine, they turned it into the opportunity of a lifetime.
On September 15th, Nike created a revolutionary new basketball shoe. On October 18th, the NBA threw them out of the game. Fortunately, the NBA can't stop you from wearing them. Air Jordans from Nike.
You can imagine the amount of hype this created for the Air Jordan 1. The NBA can stop Michael Jordan from wearing the shoe, but they can't stop you from wearing them. It was powerful, it was rebellious, perhaps the most effective marketing campaign of all time. People went crazy for the shoe. And today we know that the shoes that actually got quote-unquote banned were the Nike Airship. But still, to this day, people are crazy for the Air Jordan 1. The Air Jordan 1 is still a highly priced sneaker and a representation of basketball history and now sneaker culture. The one that started it all for Jordans, the Air Jordan 1. There's a colorway for every fit. Your sister and your mom loves them. You can get some right now and instantly be known as a sneakerhead. The Air Jordan 1 is in a league of its own on this list. Definitely one of the most loved J's of all time. Remember when we talked about the Jordan 11 being one of the most beloved Jordan sneakers of all time? Well, there's another side to that coin that we haven't talked about yet. The initial release of the shoe was so successful that Nike decided to drop a lower cut version of the shoe, dubbed the Jordan 11 IE. Not to be confused with the Air Jordan 11 Low, which came out much later. If you've ever owned a pair of 11s, you know how the patent leather combined with the ballistic mesh makes for a more muggy fit. It's kind of hot, not suitable for something on a summer day. The shoe was made for performance, not lifestyle. style, so it makes sense. Jordan Brand knew this, so they had Tinker Hatfield design a summer-friendly option for the sneaker with more breathable materials. Why does the Jordan 11 IE get so much hate though? MJ actually wore them on the court. In the heat of the 96 playoffs, Michael Jordan laced up in a pair of Air Jordan 11 Low IEs, slicing through the Knicks and Magic, yet he twisted his ankle on Orlando's slick court and swapped the IEs for his trusty Air Jordan 11 Bread. When the Air Jordan 11 IE was first released, it garnered some mixed reviews and some criticism, but overall, it's not a bad shoe. Personally, I love them. However, the association with Jordan 11 in the name is a bit confusing for sure because the aesthetics are totally different. What happens when you depart from the design of the original Air Jordan 11, which featured the iconic patent leather and glossy finish? Well, people weren't too thrilled about the change as some fans preferred the traditional look and feel of the original, although the outsole is nearly the same. Also, the initial reception of the Air Jordan 11 was greatly influenced by the lack of promotion and hype surrounding it, in comparison to the original Air Jordan 11, which got tons of marketing behind it. And like the Jordan 15s, which followed the Jordan 14, which was a dope shoe, these silhouettes had a tough act to follow. It's the classic, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing. I'm glad that they exist though, and I'm actually looking to cop myself a pair here in the very near future. I heard they're actually pretty comfortable. Yo, what's good? Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing to the channel. It'll really help us out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.